What's up guys, welcome back. This is Anime Crossover. You'll be watching What If Naruto Was Married to the Goddess of Death in Marvel Part 16. Now, let's begin. From Naruto's perspective, it felt as though time had come to a standstill, leaving him as the sole entity in motion within the vast universe. The Celestials appeared to be in a state of suspension. Naruto observed the apprehension reflected in their eyes. Naruto exhibited no compassion and launched a direct assault on them. He positioned himself among the Celestials, then amassed a significant quantity of red energy around his body and released it with great force. The sudden release of energy promptly created a large, luminous sphere. The illumination was akin to the simultaneous explosion of a million suns, resulting in this extraordinary light. This formidable force consumed all within its vicinity. The Celestials responded, yet the disaster had already unfolded. They had missed their opportunity to escape. The energy emitted by Naruto was progressing at speeds exponentially greater than that of light, leaving no one capable of evading it. The Celestials observed with a sense of dismay as the energy shock wave unleashed by Naruto engulfed them. Much like an individual facing their final moments, they could only observe with a sense of hopelessness as the figure of death lifted his sickle to claim their essence. The exact number of Celestials vaporized by this shock wave remains uncertain, occurring silently and without any indication. Amidst this dark red energy shock wave, the bodies of these Celestials, capable of enduring the vacuum of space, appeared remarkably frail. As the energy unleashed by Naruto subsided, a significant number of Celestials were eradicated. A substantial region surrounding Naruto had entirely transformed into a vacuum. The Celestials have not only disappeared, but several planets have also vanished. An event of significant consequence, this represented a true extinction-level crisis. Naruto's strength was undeniably comparable to that of the five gods. Employing such force against the celestial group was undeniably an act of intimidation. He resembled a seasoned player who had already attained maximum proficiency. This encounter was decidedly unbalanced, targeting an individual who had yet to finish a basic quest. Please halt. As Naruto surveyed the devastation he had wrought with a sense of accomplishment, a furious roar echoed from a distance. This unsettling voice reverberated throughout the vast expanse of the starry sky. Nevertheless, Naruto's expression remained impassive as he observed the Celestial advancing towards him. His eyes remained devoid of any sign of nervousness. The Celestial who advanced towards Naruto was among the most powerful and seasoned members of the Celestial group. He took part in the conflict between the five gods and the ancient gods 2 billion years ago. During that conflict, he had consumed the blood of an ancient god. It was unfortunate that the adversary he was currently confronting was not an ancient god, but rather Naruto. As the Celestial approached, Naruto extended his right hand and gently clenched it. In the subsequent moment, the body of that Celestial became immobilized. Subsequently, numerous dimensional forces overwhelmed him, and his physical form, capable of withstanding the Big Bang, was disintegrated before the fearful eyes of many other Celestials. The influence of dimensions represents one of the most significant and foundational forces in the universe. Nearly all individuals capable of mastering and controlling dimensional power were on par with the five gods. Naruto acquired this ability during his battle with Eternity's clone, utilizing the advanced capabilities of the Doomsday body template. Employing a move of such magnitude against a Celestial was undeniably an act of intimidation. The Celestial who faced bullying had no opportunity to retaliate and was swiftly overpowered by Naruto. Before he had the opportunity to mount a proper counterattack, he was eliminated by Naruto. This level of strength instilled a sense of despair in the majority of the Celestials. What methods were they expected to employ in their combat efforts? There was no viable option to resist. The disparity in strength between the two factions was so significant that the Celestials showed no inclination to mount any form of resistance. Naruto had directly fractured their spines. Subsequently, regardless of Naruto's actions, the Celestials lacked the resolve to confront him. Under Naruto's formidable power, they had entirely relinquished their determination to resist. Subsequently, it was the moment designated for Naruto's significant event. Despite the fact that these Celestials had essentially resigned themselves to their fate and sought only to flee, Naruto remained resolute in preventing their escape. With an unparalleled speed and formidable destructive capabilities, Naruto resembled a harbinger of doom, claiming all life within his sight. As Naruto traversed various planets, he systematically obliterated them without hesitation. In a brief period, the realm governed by the Celestial Group was entirely incinerated. Numerous planets were destroyed, and many Celestials perished. The remains of the Celestials were dispersed throughout the expanse of space. Witnessing this scene would likely leave an indelible impression on anyone fortunate enough to experience it. As Naruto engaged in combat, the Celestial Group continued to mount a determined resistance. A number of the Celestials, possessing considerable experience and strength, were contemplating strategies to confront Naruto. Ultimately, the Celestials devised a solution. Their approach involved consolidating the abilities of all Celestials into a single individual. The individual who had acquired the strength of others could achieve combat capabilities comparable to the 5 deities for a limited duration. It was only at that point that they could confront Naruto. This method was executed promptly. Subsequently, the most formidable Celestial in history emerged. This was the most formidable Celestial to date. The creature exhibited a purple exterior, adorned with crystal-like spikes along its back. His body was encased in a layer of purple crystal armor. He appeared as an unstoppable deity of warfare. Allow me to handle this. Those who choose to oppose the Celestial Group will face dire consequences. This Celestial, having recently acquired significant power, addressed his companions with confidence. Then, under the watchful eyes of his companions, he promptly vanished and soared towards Naruto. At this moment, the energy within his body was boundless, and his strength rivaled that of the 5 deities. This instilled in him a profound confidence that he could defeat Naruto decisively. Nevertheless, Naruto was unaware of the situation. As Naruto continued to confront ordinary Celestials, the most powerful Celestial in history, possessing a speed that matched his own, advanced swiftly toward him. Before Naruto had the opportunity to respond, a punch was delivered to his body. On this occasion, it was Naruto who was propelled through the air. Following an extensive flight, he successfully regained his stability. A trail of blood was discernible at the corner of his mouth. He sustained injuries inflicted by the most powerful Celestial in history. Nonetheless, Naruto's eyes remained devoid of any trace of fear. Instead, they were imbued with a sense of lethal determination. The strongest Celestial observed Naruto, who had been propelled backward by his punch, and let out a contemptuous laugh. He had to acknowledge that Naruto's strength was impressive. However, at this moment, he was the one who held the upper hand. Having acquired the collective power of all members of the Celestial Group, he can now be characterized by a single term: arrogant. He even created the illusion that he could govern the universe. He believed that Naruto would merely be the initial formidable adversary to fall before him in his ambitious quest for universal dominance. Before he could complete his vision, Naruto had already utilized his strength to shatter a planet and descended from the sky amidst a display of fireworks. After swiftly approaching his side, Naruto delivered a punch similar to the one he had received. Nonetheless, this Celestial demonstrated the qualities befitting the strongest Celestial in history. He was able to match Naruto's movements and speed. Upon witnessing Naruto's punch, he extended his hand to intercept the attack. Subsequently, Naruto's fist was firmly intercepted by his palm. Despite experiencing discomfort and aching bones, he successfully intercepted Naruto's punch. This marked Naruto's initial experience with such a situation. Historically, regardless of the opponent, the only option available was to evade Naruto's overwhelming brute strength. The most formidable Celestial in history was the inaugural individual to withstand Naruto's sheer strength. Observing Naruto, whose assault was thwarted by him, this Celestial displayed a sinister smile. Subsequently, he elevated his other hand and struck Naruto. Naruto opted not to evade and instead confronted the situation directly. Subsequently, Naruto was propelled once more by that punch. Nonetheless, that Celestial was also not at ease. He was propelled backward by Naruto's punch. Throughout this exchange of punches, both individuals demonstrated equal skill and strength. Nonetheless, Naruto's expression remained unchanged. He maintained a steely gaze on his opponent, as if fire were igniting in his eyes. The Celestial clenched his jaw. It was unnecessary to state that a powerful punch from Naruto was quite painful. It appeared as though his fingers had sustained significant damage. Despite a swift recovery, the pain remained inevitable. Nonetheless, the Celestial expressed a high level of satisfaction. Previously, his actual strength was insufficient, and he was fortunate to avoid being struck by Naruto. However, he now possessed the capability to face Naruto directly. He had the capability to eliminate Naruto. He smiled at the prospect of the recognition he would receive following Naruto's defeat. Subsequently, he directed his attention towards Naruto and unleashed a powerful beam of energy. In a display of remarkable power, Naruto unleashed the super heat vision, which met the purple energy beam in a dramatic clash, as if attempting to slice through the fabric of the universe. The two formidable energy attacks generated a significant explosion upon their collision. The impact of this explosion was so significant that it resulted in the shattering of several nearby planets. The two energy attacks seemed to be on par with one another. Naruto was fortunate to have the advantage of location. He was positioned on the right side. Historically, it has been observed that the left has consistently faced defeat. The Celestial on the left side gradually diminished in strength due to an enigmatic force. Ultimately, he fell, and Naruto's intense heat vision struck his body directly. Nevertheless, the subsequent scene prompted a slight frown from Naruto. Following the impact of the super heat vision on the Celestial's body, it did not result in a fatal injury. Rather, he emerged entirely unscathed. The purple crystal armor of the Celestial effectively obstructed the super heat vision capable of disintegrating atoms. Observing the pristine armor adorning his form, the Celestial smiled and chuckled. "Is that all? It appears that you will not succeed in eliminating me today." The Celestial addressed Naruto with a tone marked by assurance. The strength of Naruto's super heat vision can be considered to be fundamentally connected to the sentiments of the people. Since Naruto's debut, it can be asserted that he has remained unmatched and has not encountered a worthy opponent. Naruto's exceptional heat vision successfully eliminated Eternity's clone, a notable entity among the five gods. But now, it was obstructed, and for the first time, it yielded no impact. This outcome greatly enthused the Celestial, as it presented a promising opportunity to overcome Naruto. Naruto exhibited a degree of surprise. He was not anticipating that the super heat vision would be obstructed. The Celestial group appeared to possess certain strategies that enabled them to rise as the most formidable and aggressive organization in the universe. In addition to depending on the five gods, the Celestial group possessed significant strength on its own. Nonetheless, despite the fact that his attack was thwarted, Naruto's demeanor remained unchanged. He was confident that his strength would ultimately lead him to victory. Regarding this Celestial, it is advisable to allow him to maintain his arrogance for the time being. In the following instant, the Celestial advanced swiftly towards Naruto. Rather than withdrawing, Naruto responded in kind. Their speeds had both reached an extreme level. From their perspective, time appeared to have decelerated. A significant concentration of purple energy was accumulating in the right hand of this Celestial. A purple, crystal-like longsword ultimately manifested in his right hand. As he approached Naruto, he decisively lunged forward with the purple long sword aimed directly at his chest. Naruto, in contrast, opted to deliver a direct punch to his opponent's head rather than evade the incoming purple long sword. Ultimately, Naruto's punch struck the head of the Celestial, resulting in a deformation. However, Naruto was also experiencing discomfort. His chest was also penetrated by the purple sword. This Celestial demonstrated considerable strength. He could certainly exert significant pressure on Naruto. The four ancient gods that Naruto encountered previously could have faced demise if they had confronted this Celestial. Notably, his purple energy exhibited an even greater level of power and intensity. It has the potential to create a protective layer capable of enduring Naruto's intense heat vision. It has the potential to create a long sword capable of penetrating Naruto's body. Naruto exhibited an exceptionally high level of physical strength. In theory, nearly all physical attacks proved to be ineffective against Naruto. Despite this, Naruto sustained injuries, with a piercing wound to his chest. Observing Naruto, who had sustained a piercing injury to his chest, the Celestial's distorted visage displayed a malevolent grin. In this conflict characterized by reciprocal injuries, he ultimately emerged victorious. "Naruto, your time has concluded, and my time has commenced." This Celestial spoke slowly as he approached Naruto, and then the long purple sword in his hand detonated. It unleashed a formidable force that reverberated throughout the dimension housing the entire Celestial group. Regarding Naruto, despite the strength of his physique, he was unable to endure this explosion. Furthermore, this explosion occurred within Naruto's body. Naruto's body was disintegrated completely. Upon witnessing this scene, the Celestial could no longer contain the exuberant joy within and erupted into a hearty laugh. Ultimately, it was Naruto who had been engaged in combat with him. In today's landscape, who would have the audacity to underestimate Naruto? In the prior confrontation, this Celestial had consistently experienced fear. He was concerned that Naruto might seize an opportunity to reverse the situation and eliminate him. Fortunately, with the situation now resolved, he emerged as the ultimate victor. Henceforth, I shall be regarded as the new myth within the universe. The Celestial marked the occasion with great enthusiasm. He perceived that he had attained the pinnacle of his existence. Simultaneously, numerous members of the Celestial group approached him, regarding him with an expression akin to that of a savior. This heightened his sense of elation. Initially, his standing within the Celestial group could be regarded as among the few elite individuals. It is now clear that he has established himself as the most formidable presence within the Celestial group. It is expected that he will assume the role of leader of the Celestial group. As he contemplated the prospect of exerting control over such a formidable and aggressive organization, he experienced a profound sense of satisfaction. He envisioned that with his present capabilities, he could ascend to the status of the sixth god, comparable to the other 5 deities. This was achievable. Rather, it was highly probable that it would occur. Eliminating Naruto was a significant achievement in battle records. The admiration evident in the eyes of the other members of the Celestial group reflects his current status. He was the definitive leader of the entire Celestial group, the unequivocal strongest Celestial. At that moment, he contemplated the strategies he would employ to ascend to the pinnacle of the universe in the future. Celestial abruptly directed his finger behind him, displaying a look of horror. He was perplexed. Was there something located behind him? There was nothing present behind him. Nevertheless, driven by curiosity, he chose to turn around and take a look. Then he witnessed a scene that caused his spirit to quiver. Gradually, Naruto's figure emerged behind him. It appeared as though it was not Naruto who had been reduced to ashes. Naruto possessed the doomsday body template. Unless an entity at the highest level intervened, others could only manage to seal or banish him at best. Others could merely aspire to eliminate him. Did you not meet your demise at my hands? The most powerful Celestial in history directed a trembling inquiry towards Naruto. His astonished tone suggested he had encountered something extraordinary. Naruto displayed a neutral expression. He cast a cold glance in his direction. You did cause my demise, but does it relate to my return? Naruto expressed this with indifference, yet it led to the Celestial's breakdown. What the Celestial was unaware of was that Naruto had, in fact, been deliberately killed by him earlier. Confident in his ability to be resurrected repeatedly, Naruto confronted his opponent's lethal attack without evasion, resulting in his demise. What transpired, exactly? If Naruto chose to evade, this Celestial would be incapable of inflicting any harm upon him. The rationale behind his actions was to facilitate growth and development. Naruto was aware that he was on the verge of confronting the 5 deities. In that scenario, it was entirely expected that an additional evolution would enhance his likelihood of success. Naruto was prepared to endure death and evolve continuously, if necessary. Regrettably, this could not be accomplished. Furthermore, there were very few individuals in the entire universe capable of defeating Naruto. Even if Naruto remained stationary and took no action, few individuals would be able to penetrate his defense. Finding someone capable of ending his life proved to be a challenge for him, so it was only natural that Naruto would seize this opportunity. It was merely death, there was nothing to fear. Indeed, as Naruto anticipated, under these conditions, he was ultimately defeated. He subsequently underwent another resurrection and completed an additional evolution. The current iteration of Naruto has reached an impressive level of strength, exhibiting formidable power. What is the significance? What implications arise from your resurrection? If I have the capability to eliminate you once, I can certainly do so again. Regardless of your ability to return, I will persist in my efforts to eliminate you. This Celestial exhibited a fierce display of power. It was evident that he was already profoundly frightened. He was so frightened that his tone conveyed a sense of hysteria. Naruto, of course, remained unfazed by the threat posed to him. He was even anticipating that this celestial would eliminate him a few more times. However, Naruto was aware that this celestial would not have any further opportunities. Observing Naruto before him, the celestial once more formed a purple long sword in his hand and charged towards Naruto again. In a consistent manner, he pierced Naruto with the elongated blade he wielded. His sole objective was to breach Naruto's defenses and eliminate him once again. Naruto was anticipating the encounter, so he chose not to evade the identical attack that had resulted in his previous demise, allowing this celestial to pierce him in the chest once more. However, the outcome this time was entirely distinct from the previous occasion. The purple long sword that had previously pierced through Naruto's chest was now unable to advance even slightly upon contact with Naruto's body. It was as if it had collided with the most resilient material known to men. Then, under the intense scrutiny of this celestial, the purple sword in his hand fractured gradually and ultimately broke apart. This situation proved overwhelming for this celestial. He was filled with anticipation that he could replicate his previous success and eliminate Naruto once again. Nonetheless, on this occasion, even Naruto's skin remained impervious to the identical assault. The situation was quite harsh. The current iteration of Naruto and its predecessor represent distinctly different levels of existence. Following a further evolution, Naruto's abilities have enhanced across all dimensions. The physical strength and energy levels in the body have both seen an increase. In that scenario, how could the identical attack be effective on him a second time? It appears that your show is nearing its conclusion. Naruto stated with a composed demeanor as he regarded the erratic celestial before him. He extended his hand and delicately placed it on the chest of the celestial. The celestial was propelled forward with a subtle force. Following the destruction of multiple planets to achieve bodily stability, the celestial expelled a significant volume of blood accompanied by a poof sound. Under the influence of the pain, he gradually lowered his head. He observed that Naruto's force had created a significant breach in his chest. His once impressive purple armor lay in ruins. This illustrates the change in strength following Naruto's evolution. His previously formidable opponent had transformed into a stray dog. Naruto had the capability to eliminate this individual whenever he chose to do so. It's all done now. Starting now, the universe won't have the stories of the Celestial Group anymore. Naruto decided he was done playing, so he just went ahead and told all the Celestials that the Celestial Group was finished. The Celestial that Naruto sent flying still hadn't bounced back from that hit. He looked down at the wound on his chest, his expression a mix of confusion and disbelief. He looked really sad. But Naruto wasn't about to give him another shot. This whole situation really needed to wrap up. Naruto was done waiting and wasn't interested in playing around with the Celestial Group anymore. What he needed to do now was wrap up this playful battle for good. As Naruto faced off against the strongest member of the Celestial Group, the rest of the group hadn't made a move yet. They were confused about why Naruto, who had just died, suddenly showed up again. They saw Naruto get blown to ashes with their own eyes. So, what's the deal with Naruto getting so strong all of a sudden? He just couldn't be powerful anymore. His power was something you couldn't even begin to imagine. Once they wrapped up their earlier thoughts, the Celestials finally came to the conclusion that things weren't looking too great for them. They were really close to Naruto, maybe a bit too close for comfort. When the Celestials tried to make a run for it, Naruto wasn't having any of it. Die. Naruto let out a loud snort as he gazed at the big group of Celestials in front of him. Suddenly, a chilling sound wave erupted from Naruto's mouth. It became this really scary infrasonic wave that rolled through the universe. Everywhere this infrasound wave went, planets blew up and stars faded away. Even a galaxy fell apart without putting up any fight. All these Celestials just exploded and instantly died from Naruto's roar. Once he was done with the other Celestials, Naruto turned his attention to the strongest one. Then, he picked up the pace and suddenly showed up right behind him. Right now, Naruto's speed is way faster than it used to be. Not even the mightiest Celestial could match his speed anymore. In his eyes, the actions of this Celestial seemed to slow down multiple times. Naruto didn't sense any danger coming from him. And even if this Celestial managed to land a lucky shot, what would that really accomplish? he still couldn't get past his defense. But Naruto was something else. He suddenly showed up right behind this celestial and grabbed the crystal spikes on his back. When he squeezed them, you could hear a cracking click sound. So, Naruto went ahead and crushed those purple crystal spikes. The celestial let out a sad howl right away. The sound was so awful that it was really scary to listen to. The crystal spikes were the power core of the celestial. They were the most crucial part of his body. Now that Naruto took them down, you can just picture the kind of pain that would bring. The celestial, feeling that intense pain, finally pushed past his fear of Naruto and started to fight back. He unleashed a massive burst of energy in a powerful shock wave, aiming to catch Naruto off guard with it. A massive energy shock wave, kind of like the Big Bang of the universe, came rushing toward Naruto, and it was pretty terrifying. Naruto, however, didn't dodge. He didn't even plan on dodging it. He decided to tackle it directly. This energy shock wave was one of Naruto's go-to moves. He had used this method a bunch of times to really mess things up for the enemy. Of course, he wasn't going to be affected by this move at the moment. Honestly, it turned out just the way he expected. He was able to totally handle this energy shock wave without getting hurt at all. The energy shock wave that came in just couldn't do any damage to Naruto's body. It just couldn't get past his defense. This really highlighted a big strength gap. Even with all his efforts, the Celestial just couldn't compete with Naruto. The difference in strength was huge, allowing Naruto to handle the energy shock wave and get closer to the Celestial. He showed up behind him again and smashed 2 more of his crystal spikes. The huge energy shock wave that once packed a punch is now totally useless. The Celestial was pretty badly hurt and ended up in a brief coma. Just think about how intense the pain must have been from the crystal spike being destroyed to knock the Celestial into a coma. Naruto definitely seized the moment and started to go all out against this opponent who had once taken him down. After taking hit after hit from Naruto, the Celestial just couldn't handle it anymore. His eyes started to fade, and his spirit began to crumble. He finally couldn't keep up his pride in front of Naruto, and it felt like his spine just gave out completely. Even if he got as strong as Naruto right now, he still wouldn't stand a chance against him. He was already feeling a bit scared of Naruto, deep down in his heart. He just couldn't make a comeback while up against Naruto. Looking at this person's miserable state, Naruto's expression stayed the same, and there was no hint of sympathy in his eyes. When this Celestial took him out earlier, there was no holding back. Since they were enemies, it was all about survival. Being merciful right now seems like something only a fool would consider. As Naruto gazed at the totally unconscious opponent before him, his expression stayed the same, but his eyes sparkled with intensity. Suddenly, 2 golden rays of light burst from Naruto's eyes and illuminated the body of the Celestial. After Naruto evolved, his attacks got way stronger. After getting hit by Naruto's super heat vision, this Celestial didn't even have a moment to react. The golden, super heat vision went right through him. After that, his body melted away pretty quickly, and he was completely gone. Once he wrapped everything up, Naruto finally paused and glanced over to the distant side of this dimension. There are still quite a few Celestials and Eternal races hanging around in this dimension. So, Naruto was also after those survivors. But this time, Naruto didn't take to the skies. He didn't have to blow up every single planet anymore since he found easier ways to get things done. Jin Kaitian. Naruto mustered all his strength and threw a punch at the air in front of him. A scary force suddenly burst forth and caused chaos in this dimension in no time at all. As Naruto's power hit its peak, there was a distinct click sound. It felt like a mirror had just broken, and suddenly, there was this dark crack right in front of him. Just like back in the day when Naruto took on the 4 ancient gods and ended up wrecking the whole dimensional world. So, Naruto was using that same method to take down the dimension where the Celestial group was hanging out. Naruto didn't do this earlier because he just didn't have the strength he needed back then. The dimension where the Celestial group was found was created by eternity. It felt like stepping into a whole different universe. Even for someone like Naruto, taking down a dimension like that was no easy feat, but now things had changed. After Naruto evolved again, he got a lot stronger. So, Naruto just smashed through the crystal walls of this dimension with one punch, and it totally shattered the whole place. The dimensions were just like bubbles drifting in the water. Back when the crystal wall was whole, it was tough enough to stand up against the wear and tear from the sea of void. But, as soon as a gap showed up in the crystal wall, the endless void would rush in and swallow the dimension bubble whole. This is what's happening right now. When Naruto broke through the crystal wall of this dimension, a chilling void came rushing in. Then, Naruto watched as this dimension started to crumble right before his eyes, and he could see the collapse spreading wider and wider. Naruto peeked through the gap in the crystal wall and took in the scene unfolding in the sea of void. He even spotted a bunch of dimensional bubbles just floating around in the sea of void. For sure, those dimensional bubbles were like other parallel universes. But Naruto just watched instead of getting involved with them. He definitely cared about the parallel universes, but he just wanted to focus on what was happening right now. Once Naruto smashed through the crystal wall of this dimension, he was all set to head out. Naruto understood that the celestial dimension was bound to be consumed by the void eventually. Even if a few lucky celestials managed to escape the disaster of this dimension's destruction, it wouldn't really change the overall situation. Right when Naruto was about to head out, someone suddenly showed up behind him without making a sound. This figure looked a lot like a person. It had 4 limbs, 1 head, and 5 fingers, you know. So, his skin was blue, and he had on this red robe. He also had a skull hanging around his waist. The most striking thing was that his eyes looked like 2 crosses. Oblivion. Naruto said seriously. He realized who the figure was that had shown up behind him. Exactly. Out of nowhere, one of the 5 gods, Oblivion, showed up right behind Naruto. Even though Eternity was considered the leader of the 5 gods, Oblivion was still the most powerful of them all. He was so strong that he could take on the other 4 gods all by himself. Naruto really had to take this guy seriously when he just showed up out of nowhere. Hey, are you the variable that Eternal mentioned? That's really impressive. You really took down the celestial group. What do you want me to do for you? What if I said I wanted to take you out? Oblivion asked with a heavy heart. He also figured out who Naruto really was. Oblivion really had no idea that Naruto was around. He just sensed that the dimension of the celestial group was falling apart, so he decided to check it out. Out of the blue, he spotted Naruto and decided to tag along. When it comes to the celestial group, Oblivion just couldn't be bothered with them. So what if they're gone? Oblivion just didn't care, not one bit. He was the strongest among the 5 gods and really stood out for his independence. Eternity really wanted power. Infinity had the most Buddhist vibe. Death enjoyed causing problems and fishing while Galactus was eating or about to dine. Oblivion frequently traversed the cosmos. He would occasionally destroy a few galaxies just for fun. He was the god of death, hovering over the cosmos and the greatest menace to other civilizations. Oblivion's actions enraged the other gods as well. But who made Oblivion the most powerful? Naruto was also aware that the Oblivion was tough to deal with. He was the most willful of the 5 gods. In the past, this person created a clone called Lord of Chaos. Then, his clone consumed 96.5% of the cosmos, and the other 4 gods couldn't stop it. With such a record, one can determine Oblivion's power. It had to be known that he was simply a clone, leaving the other cosmic gods defenseless. Nobody realized precisely how powerful Oblivion was. Naruto, on the other hand, was instinctively suspicious of the Oblivion. After all, there was no chance of reconciliation between him and the 5 gods. They were only at battle with their other. Oblivion, the so-called strongest of the 5 gods, was inevitably Naruto's greatest adversary. Furthermore, Naruto was confident that when he confronted the 5 gods in the future, Oblivion would cause him significant problems. However, Naruto had not anticipated to face Oblivion so early. However, Naruto had no intention of fleeing after their meeting. This was an excellent chance for him to observe just how powerful Oblivion was. How strong was he in comparison to the other 5 gods? A lot of people want to kill me, and I have never opposed them, but unfortunately, no one has done it yet. If you think you have the strength, you can come up and give it a try. Naruto spoke to Oblivion, declaring war. Oblivion wasn't furious at all. He simply had a more angry expression in his eyes. You're quite arrogant. I hope you're still as arrogant when I tear your body apart later. Oblivion charged at Naruto immediately after he spoke those vicious words. Naruto also responded, rushing toward Oblivion. The two quickly fought and began fighting one another. The outcome was a tie. Both of them fled a little distance and felt agony in their hands. They were perfectly on par. There was practically no difference in strength between them. Naruto's countenance turned somber, and his opinion of Oblivion improved significantly. He had originally believed that by developing once more, his strength would be greater than the five gods. But it seems that it wasn't enough. Oblivion was even more startled. Naruto was truly competitive with him. This was too absurd. Who was he? He was Oblivion. He was the most powerful of the five gods. He had fought many opponents since he was born, yet he had yet to meet a single opponent who could compete with him. This time, he unexpectedly faced Naruto, whose power matched his own. His amazement was so intense that the scorn in his heart had vanished. He would no longer look down on Naruto. Your strength is not awful. No surprise you are so pompous. You have the right to be arrogant. In my perspective, you are strong enough to become a god. How about we work together? Help me slay Galactus, and I will give you his place. How about it? Oblivion chatted with Naruto. At the time, he had entirely accepted Naruto as an entity on par with himself. However, Naruto shook his head and declined his request. There is no need. I shall dethrone all five gods and become the one god. I'm a little insane. I do not want anyone to be on par with me. You are also the same. Naruto flatly rejected his suggestion. He wanted to be the only one, not one of the strongest. Furthermore, Naruto didn't think Oblivion was a decent guy. He certainly intended to trap himself. Oblivion's pitch seemed appealing, but who knew what it was? Oblivion was taken aback by Naruto's arrogance, since he had hoped to win him over. Then he became enraged. This time, he was furious. Oblivion's fury was understandable. After all, he had governed the cosmos for so long, and no one had ever challenged him. Naruto was also the only one who stated that he would surpass him. His ideas of attempting to win Naruto over had long faded. His mind was suddenly racing with ideas on how to murder Naruto. He wanted Naruto to regret speaking those words before he died. However, Naruto remained unconcerned. He merely stared coldly at Oblivion. He did not believe his prior statements were arrogant. Instead, he genuinely felt that way. As long as he continued to evolve, Oblivion would eventually be no match for him. After that, there was nothing further to speak between them. Both of them preferred a more direct approach to determining who was stronger. Oblivion's mouth emitted a great deal of energy. It transformed into a beam of light, which sped towards Naruto. Naruto didn't want to be outdone. His golden superheat vision likewise sprang forth and clashed with Oblivion's strike. At this point, neither of them intended to retreat. Instead, they were considering how to defeat the opposing party. At this point, it was hard to tell who won and who lost because their strengths were so similar. Instead, the surrounding emptiness was shook by the aftermath of their conflict. After another collision, Oblivion calmed down. He had no option but to agree that Naruto was genuinely powerful. He was on level with him. He could kill Naruto, but it would take a long time. Furthermore, if there was a true life or death struggle, the outcome between him and Naruto would be 5,050. He couldn't claim that he was guaranteed to win. As a result, Oblivion wisely halted. Naruto did the same. He also decided not to fight Oblivion severely at this time. Although he and the five gods were foes, they would ultimately face off in a life-or-death combat, but not just now. Furthermore, this was the Celestial Group's dimension. It was Oblivion's home field. It was quite likely that his conflict with Oblivion would entice the other five gods. At the time, Naruto faced the fate of being encircled. This was not what he wanted to see. He wasn't terrified of them, he was afraid of being sealed or expelled. Eternity was previously aware of Naruto's unusual power. He understood that murdering Naruto would only cause him to develop. As a result, Eternity decided to employ the safest method: seal or exile Naruto. Eternity found it quite difficult to do this task on his own. He could even perish at Naruto's hands. However, once more than 2 of the 5 gods were present, Naruto might be sealed altogether. As a result, Naruto need assistance in creating an opportunity to face one of the 5 gods individually. This was also the primary reason Naruto was prepared to petition the ancient gods to join forces. He did not anticipate the ancient gods to be of much use. All he needed was for them to stall the other gods so Naruto could battle one of them alone. Naruto did not wish to fight Oblivion here. Naruto's life would be over if he was sealed or exiled. In any event, he had completed his present mission and entirely obliterated the Celestial Group. He no longer needed to worry about the Celestial Group. All he needed to do was consider how to cope with the 5 gods. The next time we meet, they'll kill you. I promise. Oblivion said harshly. He also understood that now was not the moment to decide the fate of his struggle with Naruto. When Naruto arrived to face the 5 gods, they would have to decide the outcome. The corners of Naruto's mouth raised slightly after hearing Oblivion's comments. He sincerely hoped that Oblivion's words would come true, and he would kill him once. If such is the true, he will be able to develop once more. Naruto would have wanted to kill Oblivion if he hadn't been worried of aggravating him to the point of holding him back for no apparent reason. He would not allow him to retract his statements. The corner of Oblivion's lips twitched a few times as he looked at Naruto, who was not only not terrified but also seemed to be expecting something. Then he turned and vanished in front of Naruto. Oblivion no longer wanted to remain. He was concerned that the longer he stayed, the angrier he would become. It was preferable for him to go back, prepare, and await Naruto's challenge. When the time came, he'd undoubtedly make Naruto regret his remarks. Naruto has no intention of remaining here any longer. He turned around, opened the portal, and vanished. Now that all of the impediments to confronting the 5 gods had been removed, he needed to consider how to deal with them. Throughout the process, he aimed to recruit as many helpers as possible. To put it frankly, he wanted additional cannon fodder. These cannon fodders were not required to engage in direct combat with the 5 gods. They merely needed to share Naruto's strain and ensure he wasn't encircled. As of now, it was preferable for him to return to Earth and Asgard first. This might be viewed as the sole tranquil period preceding the fight. Naruto discovered Hela in Asgard. At this point, Hela was explaining something to Thor. Naruto could see that Hela intended to prepare Thor to be the next God King. Prior to becoming a God King, Hela was infatuated with the role. This was something that Hela should have received. If not for Odin, she would have been a God King long ago. After becoming God King, she was weary of being one. She came to understand that being a God King was not just a prestigious title, but also a significant responsibility. At the moment, she really didn't want to deal with all the responsibilities that came with Asgard. She really wanted to be by Naruto's side and explore all the amazing things the universe has to offer. Basically, she just wanted to lounge around all day. Thor's personality really shifted after going through so much. Now, he's seen as an amazing leader and the god of war of Asgard. He was a good fit to become a God King. With Frigga's insights in the mix, Hela and Thor really got along well. So, Hela thought it would be a good idea to hand over the God King role to Thor. "Hey, you're back. Have you taken care of everything?" Hela, while she was in the middle of explaining something to Thor, glanced over at Naruto and asked with a hint of concern. "We've got it all figured out. No more Celestial Group will be happening in the future." Naruto spoke without much care, like he had just stepped on a bunch of ants without a second thought. Hela couldn't help but smile when she heard what he said. Even though she wasn't part of the battle, Naruto's victorious comeback still brought her joy. Right then, Thor also stepped up. "Hey, are you all thinking about doing something exciting? Am I able to join in too?" Thor was chatting with Hela and Naruto. He was actually asking Naruto, to be precise. Thor realized that Hela's view was mostly influenced by Naruto. If Naruto was on board, then Hela was totally fine with it. Naruto just naturally turned down Thor's request. "Nope. Right now, we're good without your help for what we're planning. Also, you've got your mission to think about." Naruto said no. He really didn't want Thor getting mixed up in this situation. Meanwhile, Hela chimed in as well. "Naruto's got a point. Now's probably not the best time for you to jump into this situation. You've got better things to focus on. We've got to make sure Asgard is safe once we head out. Hela is definitely the strongest person in Asgard right now. Holding 6 Infinity Stones, her power was on par with the 5 gods. Thor was the second strongest person in Asgard. Once Thor woke up to his divine power and discovered rune magic, he also received the storm axe that Odin had set up for him. Now his strength had really gone beyond what he originally planned. If Hela didn't have the Infinity Stones, she likely wouldn't stand a chance against him. This level of strength was just what was needed to keep Asgard safe and steer clear of any attacks while Hela and Naruto were going up against the 5 gods. Even though Naruto took down the celestial group, it was bound to happen that a few of them would manage to slip away. If Thor wasn't in Asgard at that time, Asgard would be in trouble. Thor finally nodded his head after listening to what Naruto and Hela had to say. Thor wasn't dumb. He had a feeling that the situation with both Naruto and Hela was pretty risky. He was aware that Naruto and the celestial group were on opposing sides. It was tough to say for sure that when Hela and Naruto weren't around in Asgard, the Celestials wouldn't come after it. Having him around would definitely make things safer. The regular Celestials just can't keep up with Thor anymore. Even the mighty Celestials wouldn't confidently claim they could definitely beat Thor. Check out Odin's incredible divine power. Odin passed down this power to help the God King. Alright, I'm going to hand this over to you, and I really hope you won't let me down. Hela joined Thor, and a thick, divine energy began to radiate from her form. Hela inherited this power from Odin, and it was considered the highest level of power across the 9 realms. Once Hela made up her mind to step down, she chose to hand over Odin's power to Thor. Now's the perfect moment. Thor looked surprised, like he really didn't see that coming from Hela. He realized that when Hela did this, it was her way of saying she wanted him to step up as the God King of Asgard. But honestly, all of this caught me off guard. No way, you're the God King of Asgard, and I'm just here as your sword. A sword doesn't need a crown, and Asgard really doesn't need a new king. Well, Thor definitely wasn't going to accept it. He didn't believe he was any more qualified to be a God King than Hela was. Honestly, Hela really did a great job while she was the God King. She not only took care of the numerous threats across the 9 realms, but she also put an end to the twilight of the gods. Asgard's wealth was growing more and more each day. No matter how you look at it, Hela could definitely be seen as a great God King. It makes sense that Hela would be sitting on the throne of this God King for at least 1,000,000 years. But Thor didn't see it coming that Hela actually wanted to leave so quickly. But Hela was really set on her goals. Before Thor could even think about saying no, she went ahead and injected Odin's power right into him. Hela, having snagged 6 Infinity Stones and crafted the Infinity Gauntlet, found she didn't need Odin's power anymore. So, she handed it over to Thor and didn't feel a thing. Starting now, Asgard is relying on you, and I know you're going to do an awesome job. Hela flashed a smile and spoke to Thor. It was the first time Hela showed such a gentle side to Thor. It really made Thor feel quite flattered. Sure, Hela totally did this just to hang out more with Naruto. Plus, even without the title of God King, Asgard was still hers, and Thor totally got that. Honestly, Hela just wanted to be the one calling the shots from behind the curtain while leaving all the boring stuff for Thor to handle on stage. Naruto was totally on board with Hela's proposal. He was really looking forward to this moment, eager to start a new life with Hela. Naruto had pretty much checked out most of the sites on Earth. Naruto and Hela have made quite a few trips to the different worlds of the 9 realms. He's probably going to take a trip into the universe someday to check out the scenery and charm of other planets. It definitely took a lot of time, and when Hela was the God King, time was the one thing she really needed the most. Now that she had handed over the throne of the God King, she felt a weight lifted off her shoulders. Now she could hang out with Naruto for a long time and go on a trip to the universe with him. It was definitely a good thing for Naruto, and it would be pretty silly for him to turn it down or go against it. So, after some convincing from Hela and Naruto, Thor finally went along with it. After this, he just needed a chance to let the 9 realms know that he was the new God King. Frigga was totally on board when she saw how things turned out. Because no matter if it was Hela or Thor, they were her kids. Hela and Thor both shared the bloodline of Odin's family.
Does it really matter which one of them becomes a God King?
Frigga was aware that Hela had a desire to have a child with Naruto. Now that she had let go of the weight of being the God King, they could finally take some time to build a new life together. Once Hela let go of that burden, Naruto scooped her up and headed back to Earth. With a big battle on the horizon, Naruto felt the urge to go back to his old spot. Even though Naruto felt confident in himself, he realized it was tough to predict who would come out on top in a battle between him and the five gods. He could evolve endlessly, yet he was still capable of being sealed away. Before the war kicked off, neither Naruto nor the five gods had any promise of winning. Going back to the old place made a lot of sense. What if he doesn't come back later? Absolutely. Checking out the seaside manor in New York City where Naruto and Hela met, fell in love, and built their life together was definitely on the list. The old seaside manor got wrecked by Naruto, and he hasn't returned since then. So, later on, Tony Stark ended up buying the land and built a manor there. It felt just like Naruto's place. Out of all the superheroes, Tony was the one who really clicked with Naruto. He was Tony's hero too, and Tony never really got the chance to return the favor. As soon as Naruto and Hela got back to the seaside manor, Tony was the first to hear the news. When Tony spotted Naruto and Hela, he took a moment to think it over and then decided to go say hi. This time, Tony didn't just put on his armor and show up in front of Naruto. Instead, he kept it pretty formal and shot a notice over to Naruto first. Once Naruto gave the green light, Tony brought his wife and kids over to Naruto's place. Yep, Tony and Pepper Potts had a kid together. Her name was Morgan, and she was such a cute little girl. She trailed behind Tony, glancing at Naruto with a shy look. She had a look in her eyes that was just bursting with curiosity. "Hey, it's been a while. I was surprised to hear you have a daughter. She's super cute." Naruto smiled as he looked at Tony. Naruto still looked up to this superhero who could take on the gods with just his human strength. But, over time, the friendship between the two started to fade for a bunch of different reasons. This was just a pretty typical situation. As Naruto kept getting stronger, Tony couldn't shake off this weird feeling of fear whenever he faced him. After Naruto sank a piece of land in the United States, Tony really started to get that he was just a mortal. He might have been a clever guy, but at the end of the day, he was still just a guy like the rest of us. But you know, Naruto was basically a god. A god who truly lived up to his name, the god of the world. Wow, it feels like just a moment ago, and now I have a child. You know, there are mornings when I wake up and can't help but think it's pretty wild that someone like me actually has a family. Tony smiled too, then turned to his daughter with a warm, loving look. Out of the blue, he became a dad, just like a prodigal son returning home. It's no surprise that he felt a bit off sometimes. As Naruto and Tony chatted away, Hela was over on the other side, pulling Potts along and saying something. Naruto was a bit puzzled, but it seemed like Hela and Potts got along really well. Hela was a god king, while Potts came from a totally different world. They had a really good relationship. Women can be so hard to understand sometimes. "Hey, how's it going? Are you still dealing with those crazy dogs outside every day?" Naruto turned to Tony and asked. He was obviously alluding to the supervillains when he said mad dogs. The Avengers superheroes had decreased the number of super baddies. Today, society was reasonably stable. At first glance, it appeared to be like this. Because the Marvel Universe's stability was only a farce. Any chance coincidence might result in a supervillain. It was better to anticipate all mortals to become superheroes than to expect the Marvel Universe's civilization to remain stable. No. I haven't been Iron Man for a long time. I've taught a disciple who has inherited my legacy and become a new Iron Man. Now my main task, in addition to running the Stark Group of Industries, is to take good care of my little princess. Tony responded with a smile. At the same time, he waved his hand erratically, most likely out of habit. Naruto did not think much of it. He preferred this kind of communication with Tony. After all, he was a longtime buddy. Naruto and Tony had known each other for a long time, and seeing Tony brought back memories of his former personality. The Stark Group of Industries thrived under Tony's leadership. It held a significant market share in the domains of artificial intelligence and energy. Today, Stark Industries was unquestionably the world's largest corporation, with a market capitalization 3 times that of the second-place finisher. Tony had become the world's richest man. An individual with enough money to match a country. Thinking about this, Naruto realized that he still owned some stock in the Stark Group of Industries. Based on the current market value of the Stark Group of Industries, he was going to become a billionaire worth more than 100 billion. However, after so many experiences, Naruto's thinking had already altered. He may have cared about his earthly wealth in the past, but it now holds no importance for him. Naruto and Tony spoke for a time before Tony departed. Naruto and Hela stayed another night at the mansion. Naruto, as before, made some food for Hela before sleeping till the next morning. Sign-in successful, rewarding perfect T-virus serum. Naruto smirked indifferently as he heard about today's system award. Naruto's disposition may already be defined as stubborn. He had almost reached the point when he was no longer enjoying things and felt no sadness for them. Naruto was now amenable to the idea of daily sign-in benefits. He wasn't unhappy since he didn't receive anything positive. After preparing breakfast, he softly awoke Hela and saw the perplexity in her eyes. Everything remained the same as before. After breakfast, Naruto and Hela decided they should return to Los Angeles. They took a cruise ship, like they had done previously. Hela did not object, allowing Naruto to make the decision. She also understood in her heart that the warmth of the moment was only the quiet before the storm. Following this warmth, a storm was on its way. As a result, while the struggle had yet to begin, she relished every moment of it. 7 days later, they were both staying at a beautiful villa in Los Angeles. They got up early every day, as usual. After breakfast, the two waited in the villa's garden. Today was the day when Naruto and the ancient gods resolved to combat the 5 gods. Hela grasped Naruto's left hand. She had fiercely gripped it with her fingers. Both knew the following battle would be extremely perilous, yet neither was terrified. Because they were confident that they would be the eventual winner. The other ancient gods quickly approached Naruto and Hela, not waiting for them. Jia, as the leader, guided the 4 ancient gods. Thon was at the finish, staring at Naruto with terror. He was afraid of Naruto. There were many more ancient gods than the 4. Their actual bodies did not arrive, but remained beyond the earth. This was their projection. The timing is right, Master Naruto. We can begin the plan. Gaia, the sole female among the ancient gods, approached Naruto and spoke respectfully. Naruto nodded. It was time. It was time to settle his grievances against the 5 gods. Let's go. Let's meet in outer space first. Naruto grabbed Hela's hand and opened a massive gateway. Then he snatched Hela and entered first. Jia and the other ancient gods quickly followed, appearing in distant space from Earth. Many ancient gods with massive bodies awaited them in space. The ancient gods had unusual looks. Some of them resembled humans, while others gave the impression of being weird monsters from Cthulhu's writings, implying that they were incomprehensible. However, these ancient gods regarded Naruto with tremendous admiration. This was because Naruto was the strongest, and they valued strong individuals. When Naruto and the ancient gods gathered above the planet, Nick Fury nervously stared at the television in front of him, perspiration dripping down his black brow. Because the scene in front of him now was straight out of a tale. In the darkness, a group of massive creatures gathered to discuss something. Nick Fury saw this sight from a SHIELD satellite. Could a gathering of ferocious-looking creatures be beneficial? They could even be talking about how to attack Earth. This was a huge occasion, so they needed to make enough preparation. Nick Fury phoned Captain Marvel while this was on his mind. Captain Marvel had already returned from outer space and was currently fighting supervillains all across the planet. She went to SHIELD headquarters as soon as she received Nick Fury's summons. Then she witnessed the identical scene that Nick Fury did. Captain Marvel felt oppressed merely by looking at those massive creatures on film. These monsters are very strong. Captain Marvel exclaimed. She felt proud of herself, but she was not a fool. Naturally, she could envision how terrible the monsters in the video were. She didn't dare to pretend she could handle one of them, let alone so many. Captain Marvel even believed that if these creatures attacked Earth, the only alternative was to destroy it. Because even she couldn't withstand these beasts. Maybe only the god of the world would stand a chance. However, a scene suddenly emerged that left Captain Marvel and Nick Fury in despair. They saw Naruto. He was surrounded by creatures who were talking about something. Look at the demon's polite approach towards him. It was evident that Naruto was their leader. When they understood this, Captain Marvel and Nick Fury's faces altered. Both of them realized that if Naruto led such a large number of monsters to attack Earth, the only thing that could happen was death. Resisting was absolutely impossible. Naruto alone was capable of suppressing all of Earth's superheroes. Who could stand up to such a mighty god of Earth? I hope they are not going to attack the Earth, otherwise it will be the end of the world. Nick Fury expressed sadness. He had no light in his eyes and appeared to have lost all hope. Captain Marvel asked Nick Fury to quit being so downbeat. Unfortunately, she had the same notion. The only thing they could do now was pray that Naruto and the monsters would not end up on Earth. Otherwise, the Earth would be annihilated instantaneously, with no chance of survival. What made them even more desperate was that both Captain Marvel and Nick Fury believed Naruto's purpose was most likely Earth. Otherwise, why would he assemble so many creatures in space beyond Earth? He only cared about one place in the solar system, Earth. In other words, it was more than 80% likely that Naruto assembled that many monsters to attack Earth. This caused Nick Fury and Captain Marvel to despair. They sensed the coming disaster. Then something much more terrifying occurred. Naruto really moved his head to gaze at the Earth. In actuality, Naruto was simply staring at Earth, preparing to say goodbye. Although it was not Naruto's true home world, the Earth of this universe was very similar to his home planet, the elemental countries. It might be regarded as half a home planet. Naruto was ready to embark on an unknown trip to fight in a battle with undetermined results. It was very acceptable for him to glance at Earth before leaving. What Naruto didn't anticipate was for his sight to thoroughly startle Nick Fury and Captain Marvel. It is over. Naruto's target is Earth. He's coming for the Earth. Nick Fury mumbled as if he had lost all hope. Captain Marvel's visage was likewise incredibly dismal. Nonetheless, she clenched her teeth and avoided appearing desperate. Even if the opponent is him, I will not surrender. If he wants to attack Earth, he has to defeat me first. Captain Marvel spoke to Nick Fury, or possibly to herself. She believed that this strategy would help her gain confidence. But Naruto quickly built a link to distant space. This time, the opposite end of this vortex was located in the universe's deepest and most ancient depths. This was where the five gods, who had ruled the cosmos since its inception, dwelt. And Naruto's purpose was to end the five gods' lengthy reign over the universe. After Naruto and Hela entered the portal, the other ancient gods followed suit. Then, in front of Nick Fury and Captain Marvel, they vanished into space beyond Earth. Quickly, immediately mobilize the satellites around the world to see where these guys have gone. Nick Fury spoke hesitantly. Then he dashed out of his office to teach his staff. Nick Fury surmised that Naruto had taken that collection of creatures to a remote part of the Earth to plot something major. They just didn't realize he wasn't interested in Earth at all. Nick Fury spent a good while mulling over a problem. Where did he go, anyway? So, where did he stash all those monsters, anyway? Captain Marvel was no different. Sometimes, she would just stroll around on Earth. She did this to find the traces of Naruto and those ancient gods someday. If Naruto could read Nick Fury and the others' minds, he'd probably just chuckle at their thoughts with a bit of disdain. Would he need to ask for help if he wanted to do something about Earth? So, what if he actually wanted to do something? Do you think Nick Fury and Captain Marvel could actually take him down? Nick Fury and Captain Marvel's reactions just cranked up the drama for both of them. Let's talk about Naruto again. Once they stepped through that portal, they found themselves in a really dark place. This was the most profound part of the universe. The main spot where the explosion happened during the Big Bang. In this part of the universe, it was different. There weren't endless stars shining everywhere. It was all about darkness, silence, and coldness around here. This place was home to the five gods. Naruto was sure they were his opponents, so he went all out. He took his team to the home of the five gods, ready to kick off a big showdown with them. It was finally time to let go of those grudges. Naruto and the gang popping up in that dark, eerily quiet part of the universe really grabbed everyone's attention. They showed up way too suddenly. This endless dark part of the universe has always felt empty, hasn't it? Meanwhile, Naruto and a bunch of ancient gods showed up, which stirred up some ancient beings that had been snoozing deep in the universe. Right in front of them, there was this huge body that caught their attention. It had this black and yellow body with some really weird patterns, and honestly, it was just massive. She was one of just two female figures among the five gods. Endlessness. Ancient gods. Don't you think that being sealed away for so long might help you move past your hatred? Are you really thinking about challenging us again? You know, if I had seen this coming, I would have taken you all out. She took a deep breath and spoke to the ancient gods. She spoke in a calm, almost icy tone, like she was the ultimate authority, overlooking everything and everyone around her. The ancient gods felt a bit uneasy when Infinity showed up out of nowhere. Even after all this time, the ancient gods still remembered the past. They could easily recall the battle between the ancient gods and the five gods. The ancient gods were defeated in that battle. The five gods flexed their incredible power to explain why they were the forever rulers of the universe. Infinity really shone in that battle. Infinity took down more than 10 powerful ancient gods. She was definitely one of the strongest, even among the five gods. When it comes to regular ancient gods, Infinity can take them down with just one hit. Actually, Infinity turned into quite the nightmare for a lot of ancient gods. With this nightmare creeping back in, a lot of the ancient gods were feeling pretty scared. They started to second-guess themselves, wondering if following Naruto to take on the five gods was really the right choice. Not long after Infinity showed up, another tall figure came into view. This time, it was an old friend of Naruto's, Eternity. Eternity's body was even bigger than Infinity. There were so many nebulae visible in his body. It felt like his very being was a whole universe all on its own. Eternity, who had just shown up, also glanced at the ancient gods with a chilly stare. When he spotted Naruto, he paused for a moment, his gaze lingering on him. Clearly, Eternity had spotted Naruto, the guy who had taken down his clone himself. You all are really not thinking things through. I offered you a chance to keep living, so it makes sense for you to stick to your own worlds. What makes you want to stand up for things that aren't yours? Eternity casually addressed all the ancient gods. He spoke in such an arrogant way that it was obvious he didn't take these ancient gods seriously at all. The ancient gods were feeling a bit miffed since they were being looked down on. But they just couldn't bring themselves to do anything significant when they saw his massive frame and the reputation of the five gods. Naruto, however, wasn't afraid of Eternity. He stepped up and stood before the ancient gods, gazing at the massive form of Eternity. You really should have realized that provoking me wasn't a good idea. I'm really sorry, but it seems like everyone is missing the point here. I wouldn't have shown up here if I didn't plan to take down your rule. Naruto had a chat with Infinity and Eternity. He really didn't show any respect in his tone, and he even went so far as to call the five gods stupid. To the ancient gods, this was what true courage looked like. Hearing those words really eased the fears of a lot of the ancient gods when it came to the five gods. So, it hit everyone that maybe they actually had a shot at taking down the five gods, right? Eternity and Infinity didn't bother to argue with Naruto because there was really no reason to. Ultimately, they still had to battle it out. But, Eternity felt a bit of regret about it. If he had realized that Naruto would become this strong, he would have taken him out right away. When Naruto first made his way into the Marvel world, he was just your average guy. Eternity had already spotted him by then. Back then, Eternity thought Naruto just didn't have the kind of strength to make any waves, so he didn't really pay much attention. Eternity's judgment wasn't off, but he just didn't get Naruto or the Traverser. Naruto's strength shot up really fast thanks to the system's help. By the time Eternity figured out that Naruto was messing up the script they had set up, it was already too late. As Eternity was feeling a bit frustrated, another massive figure showed up. This time, it was Galactus. There was a time when Naruto actually went up against Galactus. Back then, he had just gotten his hands on the Doomsday body template. So, it just so happened that Galactus showed up on Earth, planning to devour it. Naruto confronted him back then. So, in the end, Naruto won. He did an excellent job of preventing Galactus from devouring Earth, and he has also evolved countless times. However, it was during that struggle that Naruto realized how scary the five gods were. He only went up against Galactus after he was already vulnerable, yet he still was pounded to a pulp. In his heyday, Galactus may be equated to Oblivion. This demonstrated how powerful he was. Galactus recognized Naruto, too. He felt a sense of regret after seeing the complete scene. If he had known sooner that Naruto would become so powerful, he would not have kept back his energies and instead shut Naruto away for good. Naruto was still quite weak at the time. Fortunately, he stumbled upon Galactus, who wasn't really interested in the universe. If Naruto had encountered one of the other five gods, he may have ended up imprisoned someplace. But, even if Galactus felt horrible about it, nothing changed. With everything tied up, he was left wondering how to keep Naruto in control. Shortly after Galactus, another person appeared in front of everyone. The person that appeared this time was still quite large, and her entire body was dark. Her curves clearly indicated that she was a woman. Furthermore, this new person featured a bizarre skull-like head. This was Death, one of the five gods. In certain ways, Hela may be considered Death's servant. Death was the ultimate source and the highest ranking of all the death gods. So the first thing Death observed was Hela, not Naruto. "Hey, Death god of Asgard. What brought you here?" She looked at Hela and inquired, perplexed. Death understood Hela's might was, at best, comparable to the Heavenly Father level. How could this ant possibly be qualified to hang out with a group of ancient gods? Hela's expression did not change at all. She ignored Death's hatred. However, she had already decided to make Death's life more difficult. After taunting Hela, Death moved to face Naruto. "Wow, a creature that just won't die. Looks like you've managed to claim death and become something like an immortal being. I once met a guy like you who told me he loved me, but honestly, he just didn't have the strength. If you can show me some love, I might think about sticking around with you. You know, I really think you and I are the perfect match." Death spoke with Naruto in a very loving manner, almost as if she had taken a fancy to him from the start. Naruto's expression was one of displeasure. He wasn't fond of the way Death spoke. The major reason he wasn't a fan was because she had made fun of Hela. I believe she's referring to Deadpool, who rose from the dead. That person with the broken jaw defeated Death and transformed into an unstoppable force, much like Naruto. So, in the narrative, Deadpool went after Death and was successful. Death appears to be quite happy with Naruto and may even want to join him. One was obsessed with Death, while the other seemed unconcerned about it. They were an excellent match for each other. But Naruto declined because he believed Death was simply too ugly. Also, Death did not have the same wonderful aroma as his wife, Hela. He completely dismissed Death's comments and did not take them seriously at all. Instead, he decided to search elsewhere since Oblivion had appeared. When compared to the massive forms of other gods, Oblivion was noticeably diminutive. He was actually just a giant Hulk, you know. But, Naruto never questioned how terrifying Oblivion was. This person may appear average, yet he is the most powerful of the five gods. Oblivion could shift and mold the dimensions, as well as the time and space of the cosmos, anytime it desired. For example, he could effortlessly change a three-dimensional cosmos into a 10-dimensional one. He could simply reduce the 10-dimensional cosmos to a 3-dimensional one. Standing before such a mighty deity, the two-dimensional reduction card resembled a children's toy. There was truly nothing to worry about. Furthermore, Oblivion has the power to easily regulate the cosmos, allowing it to launch or restart at will. He has the capacity to compress the whole cosmos into a single atom. He had enormous power in every sense of the word. Furthermore, Oblivion was one of the few beings in the Marvel world who could completely disregard cause and consequence. Oblivion was not subject to cause and effect laws. Facing Oblivion as a foe surely provides a huge amount of strain. Upon the arrival of Oblivion, the five deities convened. The five deities that have governed the universe since antiquity have united once more. At this moment, Naruto adopted a serious demeanor. he understood that this confrontation could be the most perilous one he had encountered since his transition. If he were to win, he would attain complete freedom from future restrictions, allowing him to pursue any endeavor of his choosing. If he were to fail, the most favorable result would be to remain sealed for an indefinite period without the possibility of escape. In addition to Naruto, the ancient gods behind him experienced an intensified sense of pressure. They differed from Naruto. When Naruto confronted the five gods, he emerged victorious. What about them? They had not achieved victory. The five deities consistently triumphed over them. Confronting the adversary that had previously defeated them, it would be unusual for the ancient gods to lack fear. Let's go, Naruto. I've anticipated this day for quite some time. In the vast expanse of the universe, you alone possess the qualifications to stand as my opponent. Oblivion disregarded the other ancient gods and focused on Naruto. He held a strong disdain for the ancient gods. Nonetheless, Oblivion possessed the capacity to hold them in contempt. During the recent conflict involving the ancient gods and the five deities, Oblivion played a minimal role. From Oblivion's perspective, the ancient gods were insufficiently powerful. The individuals who demonstrated exceptional performance in the previous battle were Infinity and Eternity. The remaining three deities were engaged in paddling and fishing activities. The five gods ultimately triumphed over the ancient gods with remarkable ease. The disparity in strength between both sides was quite evident. Consequently, when the ancient gods confronted the five gods once more, each of them experienced a slight sense of weakness. Thon was the sole figure observing Eternity with crimson eyes. Thon exhibited erratic behavior, and Naruto was already aware of this fact. It was exactly due to Thon's unpredictable nature that he experienced little fear. Instead, he was consumed by animosity. In the previous confrontation, Thon experienced a significant defeat at the hands of Eternity. He had never overlooked that moment of embarrassment. With the opportunity for retribution at hand, Thon would undoubtedly proceed without restraint. Instead, he would express his disdain without reservation. Naruto has been focused on Oblivion from the outset. This was the adversary Naruto had selected for himself. His primary objective was to overcome Oblivion first. Oblivion demonstrated considerable strength, and this was unequivocal. Naruto was assured in his ability to overcome Oblivion. The conspiracy proved ineffective in challenging the authority of the five gods. Against an opponent of this caliber, it held no significance. The sole method to entirely dismantle the authority of the five gods is to employ strength and conquer them with honor. In that scenario, Naruto should select the most powerful option from the outset. The decision to select Oblivion as the initial opponent was influenced by his considerable power. None of the ancient gods were able to halt his progress. If Naruto had not confronted him, Oblivion would have decimated the ancient gods. It was unequivocal. Rather than allowing Oblivion to eliminate the ancient gods before turning its attention to him, it would be more prudent for him to eliminate Oblivion first. These were the reflections of Naruto. Hela was observing death. In terms of hierarchy, death held a position above Hela. At this point, the five gods had positioned themselves as adversaries to Naruto, making it more prudent for her to accept her fate, despite her superior status. Hela possesses 6 Infinity Stones in her hand. Even if she was unable to conquer death, she should have no difficulty in occupying her time. Naruto and his wife were set to confront the two most powerful deities directly. The remaining 3 deities were assigned to the ancient gods for resolution. Among the other 3 deities, the threat posed by Eternity was undeniably the most significant. Eternity represented the embodiment of the universe's temporal essence. In other terms, he embodied time itself. He had the ability to alter the timeline and generate a new one at his discretion. Eternity possessed considerable strength, ranking just below Oblivion while surpassing the other gods. It was entirely justifiable for him to be referred to as the leader of the 5 gods. In addition to Eternity, Infinity was also formidable. It was evident that he was poised to initiate another significant event. Galactus was likely the least formidable among the 5 deities. The threat posed by Galactus was minimal. It wasn't that he lacked strength, rather, he was accustomed to fishing. Galactus would engage his full capabilities only in exceptional circumstances. During that period, he was undeniably among the most powerful of the 5 deities. His threat level was comparable to Oblivion. However, under typical circumstances, Galactus was generally reluctant to take significant action. According to Naruto's conjecture, he is likely to opt for a spectator role. At best, he would undertake some superficial action for the sake of appearances. Nevertheless, the other deities could not rely on Galactus to address this crisis. Others were also aware of this matter. Even the other deities were aware of it. This was also the reason Galactus ranked as the least favored among the 5 deities. The majority of the other 5 deities were diligently striving to safeguard their dominion. Even if it were an individual like Infinity, she would fulfill her responsibilities when required. In times of genuine peril, she would also play a role in upholding the esteemed reputation of the 5 gods. Only Galactus exhibited truly reprehensible behavior. While the other 5 deities faced their demise, he may have been contemplating which planet to consume next. The other deities were understandably quite displeased due to his actions. Particularly Oblivion. He regarded Galactus with disdain. When Oblivion proposed that Naruto join him, he indicated that they would eliminate Galactus together, thereby securing a more advantageous position for Naruto. It is evident that Oblivion harbored a strong aversion towards Galactus. Shortly, all participants on the field had identified their adversaries. Naruto proactively engaged in battle with Oblivion, remaining true to his decision. Oblivion also overlooked the other ancient gods. His focus was solely on Naruto. Clearly, Oblivion recognized that among the multitude, only Naruto could stand as his worthy adversary. Hela confronted Death, the most enigmatic of the 5 deities. Death infrequently manifested or emerged within the universe. Even the ancient deities possessed limited knowledge regarding Death. Nonetheless, one thing was unequivocal: the formidable influence of Death. Her ascension to one of the 5 gods was not due to an air of mystery, but rather her undeniable strength. Hela undoubtedly experienced significant pressure when she selected Death as her adversary. Fortunately, she possessed 6 Infinity Stones, granting her the power to confront her opponent. In any other scenario, regardless of the number of Hela present, they would be eliminated swiftly. The 2 parties were clearly not aligned in terms of their capabilities. The remaining ancient gods were preparing to engage in battle against Eternity and Infinity. The 2 deities may be regarded as the most significant threat to all. The ancient gods possessed limited capacity to resist Eternity. If not for Naruto's leadership, even if these ancient gods were to succumb to old age, they likely would not have the audacity to confront Eternity. Naruto held little optimism regarding the ancient gods. He had never considered that the ancient gods possessed the power to eliminate the 5 gods. Provided that the ancient gods can assist Naruto in stalling Eternity and Infinity, thereby preventing any disturbances, the situation would be acceptable. Gia was designated to confront Galactus. Gia was certainly not regarded as the most esteemed of the ancient gods. In theory, she would be eliminated swiftly if she confronted any of the 5 gods. Nevertheless, the extent of Galactus' power remained entirely uncertain. There was uncertainty regarding the current status of Galactus. In a weakened state, Galactus would not be easily defeated by Gia, yet she would have the capability to effectively stall him. With the selection of the respective opponents finalized, hostilities commenced. Naruto and Oblivion initiated the first offensive. Each of them was the most formidable within their respective factions. At that time, they had previously engaged in combat when Naruto had recently dismantled the Celestial Group. Although the 2 were merely testing each other at that moment, they acknowledged each other's capabilities. With the renewed conflict, they would undoubtedly approach the situation with a heightened level of seriousness. It was unrealistic to anticipate that they would engage in further probing of one another. Please, show me your confidence. What strength do you possess to challenge the 5 gods? Oblivion approached Naruto directly and addressed him. Naruto exhibited no fear as well. He glanced at the individuals behind him and hastened toward Oblivion. Prior to his arrival, Naruto's distinctive golden superheat vision made its appearance first. Certainly, Oblivion would opt for a more strategic approach rather than confronting it directly. The superheat vision exhibited such immense power that even Oblivion held a sense of fear towards them. After evading them, Oblivion reciprocated accordingly. The dimensions surrounding Naruto's body were immediately compressed into a singular dimension by Oblivion's slap, representing the most fundamental theoretical dimension. A point represents one dimension, a surface embodies two dimensions, and a solid encompasses three dimensions. If an individual were to be reduced to a single dimension, regardless of their original size, they would ultimately be condensed into a point approaching zero in magnitude. The effectiveness of this dimensional reduction attack significantly surpasses that of the two-dimensional reduction card. At this moment, Naruto's body had become indestructible. Even though he faced this dimensional reduction attack, he pushed through the shift from 3 dimensions to 1 and charged ahead toward Oblivion. Then, he threw a punch at Oblivion's chest so fast that it felt like time just paused. But Oblivion was able to respond. He was nearly as fast as Naruto. Oblivion took Naruto's punch head-on. Instead, he fought back. Their fists met with a bang, sending a chilling wave through the whole place. It felt like there was just emptiness all around them. There weren't even any planets around. Otherwise, the shock waves from their collision could totally wipe out countless planets. This is also why there weren't any planets or galaxies nearby in the vastness of the universe. This place used to be where the ancient gods clashed with the 5 gods. In that battle, it felt like everything was wiped out. Naruto's fists collided, and while his body remained steady, Oblivion was sent flying. Meanwhile, Oblivion's body seemed to waver, looking like it might fall apart at any second. It looks like Oblivion really took a hit in that last confrontation. Oblivion was definitely strong, but it was really his overall strength that stood out. Naruto, in contrast, was something else entirely. He had the strongest physical strength. Who would even think that their body could withstand the Big Bang? Naruto took the plunge. Wasn't Oblivion just asking for it when he went up against Naruto's physical strength? Sure, Oblivion only took a minor hit, and it really didn't change the bigger picture. But after flying backward to get his body steady, he also figured something out. He just couldn't take on Naruto's physical strength. This guy was just incredibly strong, like off the charts strong. After getting knocked out by that punch, Oblivion decided to ditch the whole idea of physically fighting Naruto. He decided to go in a different direction. Oblivion figured that trying to physically fight Naruto was just asking for trouble. He quickly changed his approach and did his best to steer clear of any confrontation with him. So, even though Oblivion's body wasn't super strong, his real power came from his authority over the universe. The main reason the 5 gods were unbeatable was that they held the authority of the universe. Eternity was like the embodiment of time itself, holding all the power that comes with it. Infinity was the core of the universe, having control over space. Death represented the ultimate conclusion for all living beings, and she wielded the power of that finality. Galactus represented the very essence of the universe's matter, holding the power over all physical laws. Oblivion was the embodiment of the void, having the power to bring the universe to an end. The unique authorities really shaped the one-of-a-kind nature of the 5 gods. That was really the main reason they managed to dominate the universe for so long. Other beings, like the ancient gods, really had no chance of standing up to these 5 gods. To handle the 5 gods, the most fundamental thing you needed was the ability to go beyond the universe. In the Marvel Universe, to take on the 5 gods, a character really needs to be at least at the Almighty Universe level in terms of strength classification. Honestly, the only person who really had that kind of strength was Naruto. The Infinity Stones that Hell is holding actually came from a big player known as Nemesis. She was something that went beyond the universe itself. She was on a whole different level, like part of the mighty universe, way above the 5 gods. So, in theory, Hela could totally hold her own against the 5 gods. But you know, Nemesis' divine power wasn't only about the 6 Infinity Stones. There was more to it than just the Infinity Stones. So, when you think about it, the only one who could really stand up to the 5 gods was Naruto. Hela could probably give Death a run for her money with 6 Infinity Stones, but she just couldn't take her down. When it comes to the other ancient gods, they didn't really measure up to this standard at all. Right from the start of the war, the ancient gods found themselves outmatched by the 5 gods. It was only Naruto who could take on Oblivion. At this point, Oblivion had decided to ditch the idea of physically confronting Naruto and was starting to use his power to handle the situation instead. Oblivion casually waved his hand, and just like that, the space around Naruto seemed to vanish into thin air, almost like he was trying to trap Naruto for good. Naruto quickly snapped out of it and let out a breath of cold air aimed at Oblivion. Unfortunately, Oblivion was able to dodge it pretty smoothly. He had already figured out that Naruto was super strong, so there was no way he could take him on directly. Rather than confronting him directly, he leveraged his extensive experience and strong authority to handle Naruto. With a casual wave of his hand, Oblivion could make everything in a space just disappear into nothingness. Or he could twist the dimensions of the universe to take out Naruto. He made sure to steer clear of running into Naruto directly. Naruto frowned at this way of fighting. Oblivion was really powerful, and he had a pretty clever way of fighting too. Honestly, Naruto had to acknowledge that handling Oblivion was Northwest walk in the park. This guy was really hard to pin down. Also, Oblivion's attacks were pretty intimidating. If he doesn't watch out, he could get hurt. He really made sure to control the power of his attacks so that Naruto wouldn't get seriously hurt. Clearly, he was being cautious about Naruto's ability to evolve even after death. When Naruto showed up in the depths of the universe to take on the 5 gods, those gods had already decided they wanted to avoid killing him if they could. They were worried he might just evolve again if they did. Naruto's strength right now is pretty tough to handle. If he were to evolve again, it would really be impossible for them to stop him. So, the most effective way to handle Naruto was to seal him up. If the sealing method was solid enough, it would be like taking Naruto out for good. As Naruto was caught up in a tough fight, Hela wasn't exactly having a great time either. Death's power was so intense that even Hela, with her 6 Infinity Stones and Infinity Glove, couldn't manage it. With Death in charge, her elegant form seemed to transform into a heap of bones in no time at all. Killing Hela was a piece of cake for Death, who held the power over the end of everything. If Hela wasn't so special, and her life wasn't tied to Asgard, and she couldn't keep coming back to life, she might have been taken out in no time. Sure, Death definitely came with its share of losses. Hela's Infinity Stones also came after her. The 6 stones came together, and their fearsome beam shot straight at Death's body. So, it turned out that half of Death's body was just blown away. Even Death couldn't bounce back from this kind of injury right away, and she had to face Hela while still nursing her wounds. There's no way you can be my opponent, even if you lean on outside help. Even if you hurt me in some way, it's not really your own doing. And before long, this power is going to be mine. After Death got hurt, her expression turned grim. She glanced at Hela and said with a sharp edge. She was definitely angry since Hela had used outside force to hurt her. This was just a total disgrace for Death. She was Death, one of the 5 gods. She had ruled the universe for ages, and no one had ever managed to hurt her. This was more than enough for her to always remember Hela. The showdown between the ancient gods and eternity was really heating up on the other side. Thon was acting all crazy. He kept unleashing this vibrant scarlet energy and charging forward towards eternity. He was in a battle with eternity, and he was determined to make him pay a price no matter what. Besides Thon, there were a few other ancient gods helping him out in the attack on eternity. The power of eternity was just too frightening. Even when he was up against the combined attack of these ancient gods, he didn't let it show on his face. He waved his hand, and just like that, time came to a halt. He calmly dealt with the attacks from the ancient gods and went straight for Thon, tearing his body apart. Eternity had this natural knack for controlling time, almost like it was second nature to them. They really didn't stand a chance against someone who had the power of time on their side. Unless they could find a way to dodge the impact of time on them. Sadly, none of these ancient gods had that ability. It seemed like the only ones who could really dodge the effects of time were Naruto and Hela. Naruto could totally use his strength to mess around with the timeline. Hela, on the flip side, leaned on the time stone. Over on the other side of the battlefield, where eternity was hanging out, infinity was also in the thick of it, battling the ancient gods. When you think about it, infinity had it a lot easier than eternity, who was dealing with a crazy dog after them. This really showed off her amazing talent. It wasn't long after the battle kicked off that she had taken down an ancient god. She managed to take down the ancient god by moving him to the edge of the 2 universes. He was literally ripped apart by the force of the 2 universes. He was so dead that there was no way he could die again. Things weren't looking too good for Naruto and the team out there on the field right now. The ancient gods' side just couldn't hold up against the five gods' attacks anymore. The mighty ancient gods just couldn't match up to the five gods who had the ultimate power over the universe. If Naruto didn't come up with a solution fast, he was really going to be in a tough spot. Once eternity or infinity broke free, it was only natural for them to come and lend a hand to Oblivion in sealing him away. Back then, he would surely be held back unless he managed to evolve again. Actually, he could end up being totally sealed away and might never show up in the universe again. Despite Naruto's awareness of the unfavorable circumstances, he found himself unable to effect change in a brief time frame. Oblivion's strength was highly formidable, necessitating that Naruto utilize his full capabilities. Permitting his participation in the battlefield would result in a significant disadvantage for the ancient gods. At one point, the circumstances on the field presented a significant challenge for Naruto. If he is unable to overcome Oblivion swiftly, he risks being sealed permanently. However, as the individual involved, Naruto's demeanor stayed composed. He remained composed despite his teammates being engaged in a challenging battle. His composure was such that even Oblivion appeared to be perplexed. He was uncertain about the source of Naruto's confidence. How could Naruto inform him that he was on the verge of evolving once more? The requirement for Naruto's evolution extended beyond mere death. He was continuously developing. Regardless of his actions, he would undergo evolution after a specific period. He could also achieve an evolution if he was consistently challenged by a formidable opponent. The pace of this evolution was merely slower than the experience of death. Oblivion awaited assistance from someone to facilitate the complete sealing of Naruto. Additionally, Naruto was anticipating the completion of his evolution. Naruto was confident in his ability to manage the circumstances on the field, provided he achieved his evolution prior to being fully sealed. Both Oblivion and Naruto were engaged in gambling activities. Each of them aspired to emerge as the ultimate victor. As the five gods engaged in battle with the ancient gods, Asgard, despite its distance, found itself facing significant challenges. As Naruto dismantled the celestial group and allied with the ancient gods, the five deities remained proactive in their endeavors. Extensive preparations were undertaken for this conflict. One of them was focused on Asgard. Asgard may hold little significance for Naruto, yet it is of great importance to Hela. Furthermore, Hela possessed a critical vulnerability. She was destined for Asgard. If Asgard were to be destroyed, she would also meet her demise. During times when Hela lacked sufficient strength, this binding proved to be quite beneficial for her. Despite her rebellion, Odin was only able to seal her, as he was unsuccessful in his attempt to kill her. However, when Hela acquired the power of 6 Infinity Stones, her connection to Asgard emerged as her greatest vulnerability. In comparison to the challenge of defeating Hela, who possessed the 6 Infinity Stones, the task of destroying Asgard was certainly less complex. Ultimately, there was no individual in Asgard who held the 6 Infinity Stones. This was the sole reason the five gods focused their attention on Asgard. The remaining members of the Celestial Group were assigned to this task. The members of the Celestial Group were capitalizing on Hela's absence due to her involvement in the Great War and her subsequent restraint by death. They proceeded directly to Asgard with the intention of dismantling it. With the destruction of Asgard, Hela's demise would follow. Upon Hela's demise, it is certain that Naruto would experience significant repercussions. He may potentially lose his rationality entirely and arrive at an incorrect judgment. This outcome was highly probable. Ultimately, it was widely recognized throughout the universe that Naruto harbored feelings for Hela. If Hela were to die in front of Naruto, it would be unusual for him not to react intensely. The calculations of the five gods were notably precise and ruthless. If Asgard has indeed been destroyed, it is possible that Naruto may face a fate even more dire than death. Upon the arrival of the remaining members of the Celestial Group at Asgard, Thor was already present, awaiting their arrival. As Thor observed the Celestials emerging from the space channel, his gaze was filled with a resolute intensity. Upon receiving Odin's power from Hela, he was also entrusted with the responsibility of overseeing Asgard. At that moment, Thor recognized that an attack on Asgard was imminent. He was surprised that they actually arrived. Furthermore, each of them demonstrated considerable strength. The Celestial Group required additional clarification. The strength of the Heavenly Father level represented the minimum requirement for membership in the Celestial Group. Alongside the celestial group, numerous other formidable entities in the universe were also engaged. Examples include the Grand Master, the Collector Ivan, and others. Each individual was a specialist who had previously gained recognition throughout the universe. Each of them had experienced a lengthy existence. Typically, these specialists resided solely in their individual locations. They were required to travel to Asgard alongside the celestial group due to an invitation and directives from the five gods. Our objective is to dismantle this kingdom, correct? The Grand Master regarded the Celestials before him and inquired with a hint of impatience. He was not particularly inclined to undertake this trip. He believes it would be more advantageous for him to observe a gladiator match rather than come to Asgard to create a disturbance. Had it not been for the directives of the five deities, he would not have engaged with the Celestial group. Upon hearing his remarks, the leader of the Celestial group acknowledged with a nod. With the destruction of Asgard, your mission will be deemed successful. This leader was indeed the sole survivor from the incident when Naruto obliterated the Celestial group's dimension. He had fortunately evaded the catastrophe of the dimensional collapse, yet he had also observed the demise of the Celestial group. That is the reason for his resentment towards Naruto. He consistently sought to avenge his colleagues from the Celestial group. Nevertheless, he recognized that Naruto's strength was beyond his capacity to contend with. He chose to retreat and focus on undermining what was most important to Naruto. Asgard, conversely, represented the most strategic target for retribution. Shortly after the emergence of these celestials and cosmic powerhouses, Thor, wielding his storm axe, made his entrance before them. Celestial group, please exit. Your presence is not accepted in the 9 realms. Observing the celestial group and the formidable cosmic entities that had arrived in Asgard, Thor addressed them with a tone of hostility. Nonetheless, Thor was not regarded with the seriousness he deserved. The Celestials regarded Thor with unmistakable disdain in their eyes. Thor, the deity of thunder from Asgard, is he? If it were your sister or father, we would approach the matter with greater seriousness. However, your qualifications may not meet the necessary standards. A Celestial stated in a detached manner. He did not regard Thor with any seriousness whatsoever. In the perspective of the Celestial group, Thor was merely a novice, lacking any significant power. They believed he posed no threat to them, nor could he undermine their plans. However, it became evident to them that their initial assessment was incorrect. Thor remained composed despite being overlooked. He had grown accustomed to being overlooked, having an exceptional father and an even more remarkable sister. He had consistently been perceived as an unwise son by those around him. Consequently, Thor had become accustomed to the disregard and disdain of others. Nevertheless, what Thor found intolerable was that these individuals aimed to annihilate Asgard. Thor held a deep-seated affection for Asgard, the land where he had resided since his childhood. This was the location of his birth. His friends, relatives, partner, and all of his cherished memories were present. How could he permit someone to bring about the destruction of Asgard? Furthermore, he had ascended to the position of king, the divine ruler of Asgard. Rather than remaining a ruler unable to safeguard his nation and territory, it would be more honorable for him to step down. Particularly when he recalled Hela's directive to safeguard Asgard prior to her departure. If he was unable to accomplish this, how could he possibly face his sister? As he contemplated this, a formidable presence radiated from his being. The presence of this aura altered the expressions of everyone present. Could you please clarify what this is? A member of the Celestial group observed the enraged Thor and inquired with alarm. However, no one was able to provide an answer to his inquiry, as no one understood the reason behind Thor's extraordinary strength. Indeed, Thor's present strength is truly formidable. Thor's power had already been awakened. Upon acquiring the Storm Axe, his strength had significantly increased. Furthermore, Thor's strength attained a new level following Hela's bestowal of Odin's power upon him. Thor acquired runic magic by suspending himself on the World Tree for a duration of 10 days and 10 nights. The present iteration of Thor embodies a fusion of these various powers. At this moment, Thor's body was enveloped by numerous runes and a formidable power that lay dormant within him. The Celestials were unaware that Thor's current strength had ascended to the multiverse level. The complete designation of this state was the Rune King. In the comics, Thor's abilities significantly expanded following his acquisition of Odin's power and rune magic. he could potentially merge with the universe and attain a status equivalent to that of 5 deities. During that period, Thor concluded the twilight of the gods and eliminated the ancient gods. One can envision the immense power Thor possessed in the state of Rune King. "All of you will be interred here." Observing the frightened Celestials and others, Thor spoke with a harsh demeanor, revealing his lethal intent. Indeed, it was unnecessary. His present strength was quite formidable for these Celestials and cosmic powerhouses. In the following moment, Thor harnessed the divine energy within him and concentrated it into the storm axe he held. He aggressively attacked the Celestials and the individuals positioned before him. A purple arc-shaped lightning blade advanced toward the Celestials and others. His speed was so rapid that the Celestials and others were unable to react in time to evade. They exerted themselves fully, maximizing every ounce of energy to counter this assault. Their objective was to convert this energy into a robust energy shield, aiming to effectively obstruct Thor's assault. In the subsequent moment, the arc blade made contact with their shield. The persistent sound of click echoed, suggesting an imminent breakage. The Celestials and others were deeply unsettled by the shattering of the shield they had collaboratively created. It resembled the precise impact of a sharp blade against a fragile eggshell. The protective barrier established by the Celestials and their allies proved ineffective, collapsing almost instantaneously. Subsequently, the arc blade, having been slashed by Thor, made contact with the Celestials and others. Amidst the apprehensive stares of numerous Celestials, this arc blade decisively cut through their forms. Subsequently, their awareness descended into obscurity. They were killed instantly within seconds. Celestials, along with various formidable entities of the universe, were swiftly defeated by Thor without a moment's hesitation. A handful of individuals who survived the catastrophe remained, gazing vacantly at the remains of the Celestials. Their bodies were shaking due to apprehension. The esteemed Grand Master, renowned throughout the universe for an extensive period, was present among them. The original name of the Grand Master remains unidentified. His strength remained undisclosed, and he was an exceptionally enigmatic figure. He was widely recognized across the universe, with numerous civilizations aware of his presence. The legend states that this elderly figure had existed in the universe for no less than billions of years, and he was indeed a venerable individual. There were certainly individuals who were dissatisfied with the actions of this elderly man and sought to use him as a cautionary example. However, he was responsible for the destruction of all those individuals. Consequently, despite the Grand Master's understated presence, he commanded a level of respect that made it clear he could not be overlooked. Nevertheless, a formidable entity of such elevated standing in the universe, which many civilizations were keen to avoid antagonizing, was now quaking. His eyes reflected a profound sense of dread as he gazed vacantly at the lifeless forms of the Celestials. At that moment, he observed numerous Celestials, whose power matched his own, being eliminated with a single strike of an axe. Furthermore, one of the Celestials who was killed was quite close to him. He had succumbed to Thor's axe right before his eyes. This situation also brought him to the brink of death, surpassing all others who had already passed away. The apprehension he felt was the most significant among all. A number of fish have managed to evade capture. Then acquire another axe. Thor addressed the astonished Grand Master and the cosmic powerhouses who had managed to survive, his tone reflecting impatience. Thank you for watching this amazing video. If you enjoyed it, please consider liking and subscribing to my channel for more content. I look forward to seeing you in the next video.